What's up, everybody? This video you're watching is my year in wrestling videos. The year in wrestling, the year 2000, part 2. This is part 2 where I'll be talking about from May 2000 until the end of August. Hopefully I don't go an hour, but I may. I don't know. So I'll talk about the first WCW pay-per-view of May. It was WCW Slamboree. The main event was DDP versus David Arquette. And I believe David Arquette was the World Heavyweight Champion going into Slamboree. The belt was hanging from like the top of the arena, just about. It was hanging above the third level of the cage. So either Jeff Jarrett, DDP, or David Arquette had to climb up to the roof of the third level to grab the title, belt down, and become the new champion. David Arquette, first off, before Slamboree, David Arquette wins the WCW World title on Thunder. I believe it happened on Thunder. He pinned Eric Bischoff, or I don't know how the hell he became world champion, but he did. And I guess he beat Eric Bischoff in a triple threat against the world champion at the time. I think was the world champion was Jeff Jarrett. So David Arquette pins either Eric Bischoff or Jeff Jarrett in a three-way on Thunder. That doesn't really matter because that was a bunch of horse shit. It was stupid. It was lame, it was stupid, it was wrong, it was pitiful, it was disgraceful, it was dumb, it was asinine to have David Arquette become the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. I'm sure the guy's respectful to all the wrestlers in the back, and I'm sure he loved wrestling and watched it growing up. I still don't care. The guy was an actor. I believe he became famous in the Scream movies, did David Arquette. Anyways, the guy was an actor, and not a very good actor at all. And not even a good actor. But the guy was an actor. So, Vince Russo, he tried to defend giving David Arquette the World Heavyweight title by saying David Arquette got WCW mainstream media coverage by giving him the world title. And the Russo's defense was it gave WCW mainstream coverage when they needed it. And the USA Today newspaper put the picture of David Arquette, I think, inside or on the cover. I don't think it was on the cover or front cover, but it was in the newspaper, the USA Today. So they covered David Arquette winning the world title. Who cares? It was the wrong decision. It was probably one of the stupidest and dumbest decisions any booker or any writer has ever made in the history of wrestling. To give David Arquette the WCW World title, that was the dumbest damn decision in the history of wrestling, in my opinion. So David Arquette goes into Slamboree, the World Heavyweight Champion. And he loses it. I believe he screws DDP. David Arquette screws DDP. I believe he hit him with a guitar and screwed him. So Jeff Jarrett grabbed the title and became the World Heavyweight Champion again. Because David Arquette was behind screwing DDP all along when he acted like DDP's friend. So David Arquette wins the world title just to give it back to Jeff Jarrett. It was really stupid, a god-awful storyline, and it was god-awful to even have David Arquette involved in a storyline over the World Heavyweight title. Because the World Heavyweight title in WCW, it didn't mean something until the year 2000 when WCW and Vince Russo decided to give it to David Arquette and basically took a big old stinky, smelly shit all over the world title. And it never meant anything really again until Booker T won it and brought back some prestige to the World Heavyweight title. So, and then what else happened? And during the 3 levels, I think it's called Doomsday Cage Match. What else happened during that was Canyon came out and interfered for some reason. I guess because he's DDP's friend. So Canyon tried to help DDP. And they would go into a storyline going into Great American Bash where Canyon got thrown, or Slamboree Canyon, Mike Awesome comes out, climbs the cage, and throws Canyon off the first level of the cage. It must have been 10 or 15 feet. Threw him off through the stage, and the stage collapses. And there's like a hole in the stage, not a hole, but Canyon getting thrown off the cage through the stage, basically just pushed the stage down a little bit more. And the stunt, we were throwing Canyon off the cage, it looked phony. It looked too goddamn fake. The stage, how the stage looked, it didn't even look like Canyon was injured. But anyways, that spot was god awful how WCW did it. They just did it not well. It just looked phony as hell. So then, as I said, Jeff Jarrett wins a world title. Canyon gets thrown off the cage. Nobody gave a F about the main event at Slamboree. It was pretty awful. And not to blame Jarrett or DDP because they are good workers, but the entire match did not work, especially with David Arquette in it. Other matches at Slamboree 2000, I believe Hulk Hogan took on Kidman and Kidman defeated Hogan. Maybe I have that wrong. I'll just look it up for a minute. So what the hell? Slamboree. Kidman, or Hulk Hogan defeated Billy Kidman. But Kidman did defeat Hogan sometime in the year 2000, which was stupid. Because nobody could ever believe that Billy Kidman could defeat Hulk Hogan. Anyways, what else happened at Slamboree? Ric Flair took on Shane Douglas finally. After years and years and years of Shane Douglas calling out Ric Flair on ECW television and putting down Ric Flair and basically shooting his mouth off, calling out Ric Flair, calling him every swear word in the book, calling him a pussy, a dick, calling him Dick Flair over and over for years and years. Finally, Shane Douglas and Ric Flair get a one-on-one match and get to wrestle and have a match together. It should have drawn more money. It could have been a main event, but it wasn't a main event because I don't think anybody cared to see Shane Douglas versus Ric Flair in the year 2000. Maybe if it was 1997, people would have cared, but it wasn't. And Ric Flair was not ever going to come into ECW to do a run-in and take on Shane Douglas. That just was not going to happen because WCW would never allow Ric Flair to go to ECW, but they did let other guys go to ECW like Arn Anderson and Cactus Jack in '94 and Bobby Eaton. But whatever, Slamboree, I would give it a failing grade as a pay-per-view. Slamboree 2000 sucked. They were continuing the New Blood storyline, which did not work and was awful. So, now I'm going to talk about ECW Hardcore Heaven 2000, which took place in... What the hell do I want to talk about next? Yeah, Hardcore Heaven 2000 from ECW. Rob Van Dam returns to ECW after, I believe, breaking his leg. He returns to pay-per-view. Mr. Pay-per-view. Mr. Pay-per-view RVD returns to pay-per-view. Takes on his friend, or not his friend, but one of his greatest rivals, Jerry Lynn. And Rob Van Dam tear the house down, and they have a great matchup at Hardcore Heaven 2000. Like, they had great matches in 99 going into Hardcore Heaven 2000. After their match, it was another great match from RVD and Jerry Lynn. So that was memorable. I enjoyed that match. At Hardcore Heaven, other matches that I enjoyed, because it was in my hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I did not get to go to it, but I wish I would have got to go to Hardcore Heaven 2000, but I did not. It looked like a sellout. I think it was a sellout. It was held at a building we have here called The Rave. It's called the Eagles Ballroom, The Rave. So that's where Hardcore Heaven 2000 was held. It's pretty close to my house, probably 10 minutes away in a car. Anyways, who cares how close it is to me? Other matches at Hardcore Heaven, you had New Jack versus, I think it was a whole bunch of people interfered between Tajiri and Steve Corino. Steve Corino got busted open, bled a lot. And then you had interference from the Baldies, interference from Nova, and then New Jack interfered. His music hit. Dr. Dre song that New Jack had as a theme, that hit, that was playing on and on the entire time. New Jack goes up to a balcony at Hardcore Heaven 2000, jumps out of the balcony through one of the Baldies, through a table, and breaks his leg because of that spot. Jumping out of a balcony, of course you're probably going to break your leg if you don't fall the right way. And you can't really fall the right way when you're jumping 20 feet out of a balcony. You can't really protect yourself from getting injured. So I enjoyed Hardcore Heaven 2000. The main event was Lance Storm versus his former partner and friend Justin Credible in the main event for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. This was Lance Storm's last ECW pay-per-view. He would leave and go to WCW and probably sign a pretty good deal for himself and make way more money. Tommy Dreamer is supposed to be in the triple threat against Lance Storm and Justin Credible, but Justin Credible somehow got, I don't remember how exactly, but he got Tommy Dreamer to not compete in the triple threat because I guess Justin Credible threatened to throw down the ECW World title on the live pay-per-view, so Paul Heyman told Tommy Dreamer he could not go to the ring and wrestle, and basically Paul Heyman was blocking Tommy Dreamer from getting in the ring on the rampway. Tommy Dreamer's really pissed off, really upset, but he didn't compete in the match, I guess, so that him not competing saved the ECW World title from getting thrown down. And Justin Credible disgracing it. So Heyman said, he was yelling at Tommy Dreamer, Justin Credible has got us by the balls. We can't let you go to the ring. He's got us by the balls. And Tommy Dreamer's pissed off, gave Paul Heyman the middle finger, and left. But he would return at the end of the main event, and he'd pick up Francine and Death Valley Driver Francine. And then Tommy Dreamer would leave, get a good reaction. And that was all that was really good about Hardcore Heaven was RVD, Jerry Lynn, in the main event for the world title. And New Jack's dive out of the balcony, that was pretty awesome also. But he got injured, so I'm sure it wasn't awesome to him. That was ECW Hardcore Heaven 2000. Is a grade. I'd give it a B or C plus. Now I'm going to go on to the May WWF pay-per-view Judgment Day 2000. I don't remember many of the other matches. I'm sure some of them were good. I'm going to just talk about the main event. Iron Man match. 60-minute Iron Man match. The Rock, I believe, was the WWF champion. I think The Rock was defending against Triple H in an Iron Man match. Shawn Michaels was a special guest referee. And would Shawn Michaels screw The Rock? Because he's friends with Triple H. We had to watch to find out. He didn't screw anybody. I think The Rock was the world champion. Let me look it up. The Rock was... The Rock was the world champion, and Triple H defeats The Rock to become the new WWF champion. And at the end, in the Iron Man match between The Rock and Triple H is very good. I enjoyed it. Both guys were great workers, and they worked really well together. The Rock and Triple H, when they feuded, they always had great matches, and they always had a great, legendary rivalry in the WWF. So, Triple H wins the WWF Championship at Judgment Day 2000, and then you have The Undertaker returns. This goddamn camera's falling. So, The Undertaker returns. At Judgment Day 2000 returns, they played a video, like a Undertaker type video. I think they said something like, "He's here." And then the Kid Rock music hits, American Badass, Kid Rock theme, or Kid Rock song, American Badass, which he came out with in the year 2000. It became The Undertaker's new theme song. So The Undertaker comes out on I believe on a motorcycle, or maybe he came out on foot. I don't remember. But he was the American Badass gimmick. He had the long trench coat, and he was dressed like a biker. So Undertaker returns and comes back and attacks Vince McMahon, X-Pac, or he attacks Shane and Triple H in the match. Lays them out the next night on Monday Night Raw. The American Badass would return to Raw. The Undertaker came out on Raw, attacked X-Pac, tagged Shane, tagged Vince, or punched them out, and went after Triple H again. So The Undertaker was back in the fold, back in the thick of things in the WWF, to be basically used back in the main event again. They're trying to go after the WWF Championship, but he would never not win it in the year 2000 at all. So The Undertaker's back. That was good to see, and the Iron Man match was good. If I'd grade Judgment Day, I'd give it a B+. I thought it was a good pay-per-view. As I said, there were other good matches. If you want to check out results, look them up on the internet, or watch Judgment Day 2000 on the WWE Network if you have the network. Now I'm going to talk about, I'll talk a little bit about Harlem Heat 2000, which WCW brought back a new version of Harlem Heat. In January, it sold out. You had Stevie Ray versus Booker T, and Stevie Ray got a new member of Harlem Heat. Who was it? It looked like a pregnant man running down to the ring. Who was that? It was Ahmed Johnson. From the WWF days, he became a star in the WWF between late 95 to probably early 98. He was a star in the WWF, but his WWF run was not that much of a success because the guy kept getting injured, and he was known for not being safe in the ring, and he kept injuring talent in the ring. So Ahmed Johnson, I'm sure, was released from his contract, or the WWF just did not renew the contract of Ahmed Johnson, because I guess he wasn't that well liked backstage because he was known as not being safe in the ring and getting injured all the time and not being dependable to the company when they needed him. So Ahmed comes out at Sold Out. They didn't even say who he was. They didn't say that's Ahmed Johnson from the WWF because I'm sure they couldn't use the name Ahmed Johnson. So then he joins Harlem Heat and joins Stevie Ray, and they have a new manager in April and May. Who was it? Their new manager was, or in March also, their new manager was Clarence Mason in the WWF. I believe they were calling him Mr. Biggs or some crap. I don't remember the guy's name in WCW, but they called him Mr. Biggs or something like that. And Stevie Ray, they were called Harlem Heat 2000, Stevie Ray and Ahmed Johnson. They gave Ahmed Johnson a new name In WCW, he was called Big T. Well, Big T looked pregnant in WCW, and I don't know why WCW hired Ahmed Johnson. He looked out of shape, and he looked like he didn't want to be there, and he looked like he wasn't giving his all, but whatever. He probably got paid a lot of money, and he didn't do much. And Big T in WCW Harlem Heat 2000 did not last long at all. Just thought I'd bring that up. I was pretty shocked to see Ahmed Johnson get hired by WCW in 2000 and show up. And then he became Big T, and he was just awful. In 2000, he did nothing for WCW. He did absolutely zero for them. But whatever, he got paid, so good for him. Hopefully he got paid a lot of money by WCW. So Harlem Heat 2000 was pretty awful. Now I'm going to talk about that dumb jerk off, Mark Madden. Mark Madden was basically a commentator for most of the WCW pay-per-views in the year 2000. The guy is a fat bastard, fat piece of shit. I never liked the guy. He was a god-awful commentator. One of the worst commentators in wrestling history is Mark Madden. I dare you to listen to the guy talk for 2 hours on pay-per-view, or the guy still has a goddamn radio show in Pittsburgh. I dare you to listen to Mark Madden talk for 2 hours and not get angry and not get pissed off at what the fat fuck says. Because he's boring, he's annoying, and he was one of the worst commentators in the history of WCW and wrestling. So, Mark Madden, I don't like Josh Matthews in TNA. He's really, really annoying. I didn't mind him in WWF or WWE. I didn't mind him when he was calling SmackDown in some pay-per-views. I didn't mind him. But in TNA, for some reason, Josh Matthews rubs me the wrong way and really gets on my nerves. But Mark Madden, in my opinion, is worse than Josh Matthews is in TNA. So Mark Madden wins the award for the worst commentator I've ever heard in my life. That's what I think of Mark Madden. The guy writes articles on a wrestling site. I won't mention the name, but he writes wrestling articles, and every single one of them that I've read, it seems like the guy just bashes WWE, bashes Triple H, bashes Vince, bashes the entire company, bashes NXT, bashes WWE, bashes the entire Divas division, or I guess he thinks Charlotte is a star. Who cares what Mark Madden thinks? And who cares what if he thinks who is and who isn't a star? Mark Madden, and his opinion is irrelevant. Nobody cares what his opinion is on wrestling these days because the guy is out of wrestling. The guy never did a damn thing and never made an impact when he was in wrestling. I'm sure he has zero fans from people that watched WCW and could sit through his commentary in 2000. I'm sure Mark Madden still has zero fans from when he was in wrestling. The guy was just so fucking bad at commentary. He would just, all he did was support every single heel, and he was a mark for himself. In every single article he writes, if he's still writing articles in 2015, all he does is bash the WWE and bash NXT and bash Triple H. The guy's probably jealous because the WWE did not hire him when they took over WCW, and they decided they weren't going to hire a big, fat, ugly, bastard-looking fat fuck like Mark Madden. Because if they did hire him to do commentary, and people saw him on Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-views in the WWF, they probably would have been frightened. If they saw Mark Madden, probably would have turned the channel. Because Mark Madden is a ratings killer. Nobody wanted to look at the fat fuck. And nobody wanted to listen to the fat bastard because everything he said in commentary was just pointless. So, fuck you, Mark Madden. I'm glad you're out of wrestling forever. And please, some other company never hire the man to do commentary ever again. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Great American Bash, which took place in June of 2000. And WCW was a pretty, I'll talk about how big of a mess they were in the year 2000, because they were. First, I'm going to talk about some of the good things that happened at Great American Bash 2000. Not many did. I'm going to take this jacket off because I'm inside, and I was cold because it's like, feels like 40 degrees out, but whatever, I'm inside now, so I took my jacket off. But you people watching this don't give a fuck, and you shouldn't. I just thought I'd take it off. Okay, Great American Bash 2000, the good stuff that happened. Hollywood Hogan returned to his Hollywood Hogan gimmick, and he wrestled Kidman, and I believe he defeated Billy Kidman, if I'm right. Hopefully I'm not wrong. Great American Bash, Hollywood Hogan defeated Billy Kidman again. And if I was Hogan, and he did have creative control, if I was Hogan, I would have used my creative control to beat Kidman, because Billy Kidman was not believable to beat Hulk Hogan. So if I was Hogan, I would have used my creative control every time to beat Billy Kidman. But I think he did lose to him once, probably on a Nitro. Okay, Great American Bash, Hollywood Hogan defeats Kidman. That was good. I enjoyed it. Ric Flair beat the crap out of Vince Russo and defeated Vince Russo, I believe. Or no, Ric Flair defeated David Flair, his son. David Flair turned heel and joined Russo to try to take his dad out. Didn't work, it backfired. Ric Flair defeated his son at Great American Bash, and I believe even got Vince Russo in the ring, chopped him a few times, beat him up, put the figure 4 on him. I enjoyed that. Vince Russo trying to basically disrespect Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan and even Sid. I hated that about him trying to do that and just throw them out of WCW because they were old. And the guys, Vince Russo in WCW, was a disrespectful fucking prick. Trying to basically get Ric Flair to quit and get Hogan to quit just because he wanted to push young guys that nobody cared about. Really. So, Vince Russo, his run in WCW, that's what I think of it. It was awful. And he can blame WCW management all he wants. He can blame the boss that was above Russo. He can blame him all he wants for not letting him do what he wanted storyline-wise. But he still failed, no matter what. Russo, he didn't have Vince McMahon by his side, so he failed. Without Vince in the WWF, he has failed in WCW, and he's failed in TNA when he was there. His ideas without Vince McMahon were just awful. Okay, last match, also at Great American Bash, this wasn't very good, but it was, I guess, it was interesting enough to get me to buy the pay-per-view. Sting versus Vampiro. And whoever would set his opponent on fire would win. This was called a Human Torch match. It was a very odd, stupid gimmick match to come up with. You can't set your goddamn opponent on fire because the other guy is a wrestler. He's not a stuntman. So why the hell would he agree to get set on fire? He's not a stuntman. He's a wrestler. So Sting obviously was not going to get set on fire. I believe they were up on above the screen of the arena by the entrance. In Vampiro, the lights went out. Obviously, it wasn't Sting. It was a stunt guy dressed as Sting, and it was a god-awful stunt. The guy looked like he had a wire, or he had a harness probably, and a wire hanging on his back. He does a somersault off the top of the stage and falls when he's on fire, falls through the stage, and the fire goes out. It was obviously a stunt guy dressed as Sting, and the match was just bad and it didn't work. WCW should have never done a Human Torch match because it was awful. And how they did it was awful. The finish was just bad, fucking stupid shit. And I'm sure Sting knew it was stupid shit and probably knew already that WCW was going down fucking hill, and he just agreed to it because he knew WCW had no fucking hope of coming back and defeating the WWF. In the main event of Great American Bash, it wasn't good. The only thing that was really good was Ric Flair defeating his son at Great American Bash 2000. The main event, Kevin Nash versus Jeff Jarrett for the WCW World title. Nobody cared. But there were still Jarrett fans and Kevin Nash fans in the year 2000. I will admit that some people still liked them. But I wasn't really a fan of Nash or Jeff Jarrett, especially in 2000. Anyways, I don't even know who wins. I believe Jeff Jarrett won. Jarrett defeats Kevin Nash. And then they have Goldberg come out in a Goldberg monster truck that he's driving around the arena, gets out of the monster truck, comes in the arena, and everybody thought Goldberg was going to save Kevin Nash and spear Jeff Jarrett. Instead, Goldberg spears Kevin Nash and turns heel. And I believe Goldberg, even Eric Bischoff or Vince Russo or one of them, and Jeff Jarrett started hugging Goldberg, so they tried to turn Goldberg heel. That did not work. That was awful. That was some dumbass, stupid shit to try to turn Goldberg heel. It just did not work, and Goldberg did not look into it. After he did it, he didn't look like he even wanted to be a heel, and it looked like he didn't even want to be there. So Great American Bash 2000, if it wasn't for David Flair getting his ass kicked by his dad, Ric Flair, I would give it a failing grade, and Hollywood Hogan was on it and beat Kidman, so I would say Great American Bash 2000 is a D. I give it a D. Now I'm going to talk about WWF King of the Ring. Took place in June. King of the Ring 2000 was pretty good. Main event was Triple H, I believe was still champion. Triple H defending against Triple H, Vince, and Kane, I believe, or Vince and Shane, defending against the team of The Rock, The Undertaker, and Kane. I believe Kane was on The Rock's team with Taker because Kane was a babyface at the time. The guy just turned heel back to babyface a lot of times, so I don't remember. But let me look it up here. King of the Ring 2000, you had The Rock, Kane, and The Undertaker defeat Triple H, Shane McMahon, and Vince McMahon. So The Rock became the new WWF champion in this six-man tag main event. So The Rock wins the title after a month earlier. Triple H won the title in the Iron Man match. And what else was good at King of the Ring? You had Edge and Christian defeat the World Tag Team Champions, Too Cool and the Hardy Boys, and TNA in a fatal four-way tag team match, so Edge and Christian won the tag titles. That was good. You had, what else? King of the Ring Finals, Kurt Angle defeated Rikishi to become the King of the Ring 2000 winner. I was really happy for Kurt Angle He was the right guy for the WWF. He was the right guy for them to go with, for them to give him the King of the Ring, because he was awesome. In 2000, and Kurt Angle continued to get a push. Earlier in 2000, he had the European title and the Intercontinental title at the same time. Then later on in 2000, he wins the King of the Ring. And then later on in October, he wins the WWF Championship. So 2000 was a great year for Kurt Angle. And it was a great time to be watching him wrestle, because he was in his prime. And he still had his hair in 2000 before he shaved his head. So he was in his prime and he still had some of his hair. But not that that matters, I'm just saying. He still had some hair. King of the Ring 2000, I give it a C+. Pretty good pay-per-view. Or B. C plus or B. I enjoyed it. Now I'm going to talk about July, or right after King of the Ring, 2000 on Raw. You had Shawn Michaels come out, make an appearance on Raw, which he made very few appearances in 99 and 2000, but he made an appearance on Raw. He got up on King of the Ring, on the King of the Ring throne, on the chair, and he stood up on it, and then he threw the throne off the Raw stage, and it broke. So I'm sure Kurt Angle's not happy about that. And Shawn Michaels, I believe, gets on the microphone and says he's been the commissioner for, I think, 2 years by now. So he was commissioner for about 2 years. He says, or here's the new commissioner for the new WWF commissioner. Here he is. And then the music hits. It is Mick Foley is named the new commissioner of the WWF. And he would go on to do really great, entertaining things. As a commissioner of the WWF, he would do really great, entertaining stuff with Edge and Christian, with backstage vignettes when he was commissioner. He had his little commissioner office set up wherever, somewhere in the back, wherever he set it up. He had Deborah with him. He did great stuff and jokes about her puppies and stuff like that, and great vignettes and segments with Edge and Christian that were funny as hell and entertaining. So I was happy to see Mick Foley back on WWF television. And he had a new haircut. His hair was basically shaved bald. That was kind of frightening to see Mick Foley come out at first with no hair. He looked like a totally different person, and it was pretty frightening. But I got used to it, and eventually, I believe at the end of 2000, he grew his hair back. Or started growing his hair long again, and he would have his long hair back a year later in 2001. And Mick Foley should, if I was him, I'd never shave my head, because he didn't look good with a shaved head. I don't have a shaved head, I have hair, and I'm never going to shave my head because I don't look good with a shaved head. I would look like shit, and I'd look like a goddamn fucking mental patient if I did shave my head. I just don't look good with a shaved head, so I'm never going to shave my head. Obviously, I have hair, and I'm glad I still have my hair, and that I'm not balding, like a lot of people my age start balding when they're in their early 30s. Thankfully, I'm not bald or balding. So I like my hair, and I'm going to keep my hair, and I'm never going to shave it, because I would look like a fucking killer and probably a mental patient, which I am not. A killer or a mental patient. Anyways, I might sound crazy and nuts sometimes on Twitter and get angry about wrestling and stuff I'm not happy with, but that's just getting angry in tweets. So what the hell is I talking about now? Mick Foley is named the new commissioner. I enjoyed that, and I was glad to see him back on television every week because the guy was entertaining. Okay, now I'm going to talk about July 2000. Bash at the Beach 2000. Big thing happened at Bash at the Beach 2000 where you had Jeff Jarrett lay down on his back for Hulk Hogan, and he wasn't going to get up. He was not going to sit up This was Vince Russo's idea. Eric Bischoff has discussed it on a new WWE Monday Night War DVD. Eric Bischoff said Hogan had creative control and he used it. He used his creative control for the first time. And Bischoff explained that his father just passed away, so he had to go to a funeral and was not at the pay-per-view Bash at the Beach 2000. He was coming back on a plane later. So Russo changed the original plans, I believe, that Bischoff had. So Russo just went in business for himself and changed it. That's probably why he was fired as a head writer. I don't know when he's fired or not let go, but he's told to go home and just sit home and get paid. Because he basically did stupid shit and he didn't listen to his boss. I don't know, and Bischoff said he was above Vince Russo with having more control than Russo. So Bischoff had a different idea, different finish for Jared Hogan. Russo decided to go into business for himself, as I said, and Jeff Jarrett probably agreed with Russo because they were friends at the time. So Jarrett lays down in the middle of the ring. That was a stupid idea to come up with to do just to make Hogan look bad and just to basically humiliate Hulk Hogan. Russo wanted to humiliate him and probably get him to quit WCW and never come back. Or he wanted him to just leave WCW and quit and never come back. And Russo even said it, got on the microphone after the match, made up some bullshit that he thought was true, so he vented on the mic and swore. He swore about Hogan and said, guys like you, or some crap like, guys like you, Hogan, are the reason this business is in WCW is going down the toilet, or some crap like that. And Hogan even got on the mic after the match, I think, after he just laid on top of Jarrett, and they gave Hogan the world title. They had two different world titles. Russo basically, or somebody just threw it at Hogan and said, there's your belt. There's your world heavyweight title belt. Take it and go home and never come back to WCW again. And Hogan would never come back. And he would never appear at another WCW pay-per-view. He'd never appear on another one. Ever. After Bash at the Beach 2000, Hogan would never appear at another WCW live event or pay-per-view or Nitro or Thunder. So I'm sure Russo wanted Hogan gone, but Hogan ended up suing WCW over the entire matter. And Hogan sat on the mic, I think after it, he said to Russo, doing crap like this is why WCW is going down the tubes or something like that. And then Russo just got on the mic and said some other bullshit that was just stupid. Just stupidity from Russo to come up with that finish and have Jeff Jarrett lay on his back and get pinned, whatever. Maybe Russo thought it was the right thing to do because they got Hogan to leave the building and gave him another world title, so then they could put the world title on the line in the main event. Jeff Jarrett took on Booker T. The winner would become the new WCW World Champion. Booker T winning the title was the right decision. Whoever made that decision, that was the right thing to do. It was Booker T's time to become a world champion finally, and it was his time to become a top guy. He deserved it. So I was happy to see Booker T win the title. I was really happy for Booker, but they shouldn't have done that crap finish with Hogan and trying to basically humiliate him and just get him out of WCW. That was stupid. That was Vince Russo's ego just trying to get Hogan out of WCW because people, I guess Russo was sick of him. And he thought Hogan couldn't draw anymore because he was old. Whatever. That was obviously not true because in 2002, Hogan came back to WWF and he drew money he drew a lot of money for the WWF by returning and wrestling. So basically WWF got Hogan, they got him to draw money, and Hogan coming back drew money. But Vince Russo didn't agree that Hogan shouldn't have drawn any money in this business, or never did. Well, F you, Vince Russo, for disrespecting legends like Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan when you were running the creative end of things in WCW. You were a big-time douchebag to Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, and I'll never respect you for that, ever, for what you did to those guys by trying to disrespect them and humiliate them on live television. So, Bash at the Beach 2000, the only good thing that happened was Booker T winning the title at the end of the pay-per-view, then they went off the air. Now I'm going to talk about ECW Heatwave 2000 pay-per-view, the first ECW pay-per-view to take place, the first ever ECW show to take place in Los Angeles, California. Heatwave 2000, things I remember, you had Steve Corino versus Jerry Lynn. Steve Corino got busted open and bled a lot. Jerry Lynn takes the blood off his forehead, starts painting on his stomach, starts painting the words die, D-I-E. So he paints in Steve Corino's blood on his stomach, die. That was pretty violent and extreme, but it was also awesome. I enjoyed that. But I don't know, maybe other people didn't enjoy it and thought it was too much and thought it was out of line and sick and disgusting, whatever. I enjoyed it because I enjoy watching violence. I enjoy violent movies, and I do enjoy violence in wrestling. But I don't enjoy like backyard wrestling and that crap. I don't enjoy seeing that type of stuff in wrestling because that doesn't belong in wrestling. Smashing fucking light tubes over each other's head, shit like that does not belong in wrestling. But somebody bleeding a lot, there is a place for that still, in my opinion, in wrestling. You can have guys bleed a lot, like to end a feud, it still works, but we're not going to see it in WWE because they ban blood. The only way you'll see a guy bleed in WWE is probably Brock Lesnar, because the guy bled, I believe at Battleground, he was busted open, or maybe it was SummerSlam. I think it was SummerSlam. Brock was busted open the hard way and bled, and they didn't stop. They didn't bring a doctor down to stop the bleeding, obviously, because he just sweated, because Brock sweats a lot. When he wrestles, he's just sweating, and the blood basically just disappeared. In WrestleMania 31, Brock also bled, and nobody stopped it. No doctor came out, or they tried to check the cut, and the blood just went away because he sweated it off, or sweated it away, whatever happened. But there is a place, in my opinion, still for guys to bleed in matches. If they're ending a feud, they should both bleed, or one of them should bleed. Makes a match better. Blood definitely makes a match more interesting and entertaining. I'm not saying you should not have blood in every match. Obviously you shouldn't, and you can't do that, and that'd be pointless. I'm just saying, to end a big feud, you should have somebody bleed in WWE. But they have blood banned because they're PG. So whatever, who cares? We're not going to see blood anymore in WWE unless somebody is busted open the hard way and bleeds without cutting themselves by like accident. So Booker wins the world title. I already said that. On the Heatwave 2000, Jerry Lynn paints dye in Steve Corino's blood on his stomach. That was pretty extreme and cool to watch. Other matches, you had Sandman challenge Rhino for the ECW TV title. That wasn't very good. The best part about it was the Sandman's entrance Enter Sandman was playing. I'm a big fan of Metallica. They're one of my all-time favorite bands, along with AC/DC and some other people. I'm just saying that Enter Sandman, playing with Sandman coming out, that was a great, entertaining, epic entrance in ECW. So that was entertaining to see on Heatwave 2000. I can't talk. The Sandman's entrance. It was always great to watch on pay-per-view and entertaining. That's what I was trying to say. I've been talking a lot, so I'm getting words mixed up. Can't freaking pronounce words. I'm going to try to slow down. Okay, now the main event of Heatwave 2000 was just incredible, with Francine defending the ECW World title against Tommy Dreamer in a Stairway to Hell ladder match. You had barbed wire hanging above the arena, and you had to get on the ladder, climb up it, to get the barbed wire down, to use it on your opponent. Tommy Dreamer brings out, before the match starts, he brings out his secret weapon, I guess, to watch over Francine so she doesn't interfere. He brings out Gorgeous George. She was in WCW in 99. She was still, at Heatwave 2000, Gorgeous George was still a pretty hot-looking chick. I'm sure looks have gone downhill because it's 2015 and the year 2000 was 15 years ago. So I'm sure Gorgeous George, I haven't seen a recent picture of her, but I'm sure it is not pretty. Hopefully she still looks good, but I don't think she does, or would still look good. But in 2000, Gorgeous George still looked good. And Francine still looked good in 2000 also. And Francine looks pretty good for her age in 2015. But who cares how good they look now and how good they looked in 2000. The match was pretty good between Dreamer and Just Incredible. They got a lot of time to work, and they could always put on a great match with each other. They had great chemistry. So before the match, and after he brought out Gorgeous George, you had a couple, I think 2 or 3 wrestlers from XPW in the front row, because they were in Los Angeles, the home of XPW, the ECW rip-off promotion. That's what I call it, because they ripped off everything ECW did, and they took all their old stars. So XPW was trying to make a name for themselves, trying to get noticed on pay-per-view. So they had a female talent that was in XPW, and she was also a porn star. Her name was Christy Mist. Anyways, she was at ringside with some other fat guy that looked like a homeless Bam Bam Bigelow. His name was Supreme. He looked like a fat, homeless, way less talented Bam Bam Bigelow. His name was Supreme. He had another wrestler, XPW, I think his name was Chaos, or Kid Chaos, or something. Anyways, those guys were at ringside. I also believe another XPW talent was at ringside. Homeless Jimmy was his name. Anyways, they were all basically shit wrestlers, and they disappeared after 2003, or they're working on indies still because they are shit, and they're never going to be signed by TNA or WWE or Ring of Honor because they were shit. Anyways, Christy Misk, she's a porn star. Somebody from XPW told her, lift your top up and show your tits. Or one of the XPW wrestlers tried to touch Francine because they were in the first row, so I guess they touched her. And then Chris Miss flashed her tits. Francine got in the ring. Before the match, she was upset. She started pointing down, getting on the bottom row, pointing down at the first row, because I'm sure they touched her inappropriately, like a bunch of scumbag jerk-offs. So Francine was upset. She got in the ring before the match started. This was obviously not a storyline. This was a shoot. So then, when all the entire ECW locker room found out that some of the guys from XPW touched Francine. They all stormed the ring, and they all stormed the outside of the ring, and they were wanted to beat the fuck out of the XPW guys. A lot of the ECW guys were right up in the XPW guys' face, challenging them to a fight. Chili Willie was one of the ECW guys yelling at the XPW guys. He's a tough son of a bitch. I believe he's an Army Ranger or a Marine, or what Chili Willie was. He went to fight in Iraq, I believe. After ECW went out of business, Chili Willie went back to being a soldier and fought in Iraq. So God bless him, because I don't want to be in the armed services. I don't want to fight because I don't want to die. But anyways, that's just me. I'm too much of a coward to fight in a war. I would never join the Army or the Marines or the Navy or any of those guys, or the what do they call them? The Navy SEALs. I would never want to join them because I basically don't want to fight and die. But whatever. And I said it. People hear me say that, they can call me a coward that I wouldn't fight for my country. I just said it. I'm too much of a coward to go fight in a war. I admit that. But I'm talking about wrestling here. So then, after Heatwave 2000, Justin Credible wins and retains the world title. After Heatwave, XPW guys, I guess, are waiting in the parking lot. So the ECW roster and some of their guys go out to the parking lot and fight some of the XPW guys. They have basically a street fight in the parking lot. And I heard, from every story I've heard about the fight, I heard the ECW guys beat the fuck out of the XPW guys. They beat their ass and left them laid out. So that was Heatwave 2000. As a pay-per-view, the crowd was really into it. It was a really great crowd because it was ECW's first time in Los Angeles. So the crowd was really into it. Crowd was a A-plus crowd. They were great. The show, I'd give it, ECW Heatwave 2000, I would give a C+. And so that was the July ECW pay-per-view. I already talked about Bash at the Beach, which was, I think, in July. What the fuck? I lost the page. Bash at the Beach was in July, so that was the July 2000 WCW pay-per-view. The August pay-per-view would be New Blood Rising, which was not a very good pay-per-view at all. Before I talk about August in WWF Fully Loaded 2000, before I talk about that, I'll share this ticket I got. I went to a WWF live event. It was a house show on Saturday night, June 3rd, 2000. I believe The Rock was there, Triple H was there, Rikishi was there, and other people. I believe X-Pac was on the show, Kane, The Undertaker might have been on it, I don't remember. But this is my ticket from June 3rd, 2000 from a WWE live event. There it is. See, it says June 3rd, 2000 on it. And I had pretty damn good seats right by the entranceway, and the ticket was $30. So there is my one event I went to in the year 2000. It was a WWE live event, house show, and it was pretty damn fun being there. I would go to more shows one or two shows I went to in 2001 that was a Monday Night Raw. So now I'll talk about Fully Loaded 2000. What happened at Fully Loaded 2000? It was a pretty damn good pay-per-view card. You had a triple main event, was what they were pushing. It was a triple main event at Fully Loaded. Triple H, took on Chris Jericho in a last man standing match. Kurt Angle took on The Undertaker, which was another main event. And then you had the WWF Championship on the line. The Rock defended against Chris Benoit. That was the third main event. So what I remember about Fully Loaded 2000 is 3 great main events, and they were all 3 of them were pretty good matches and entertaining to watch. And what else I remember is Val Venus took on Rikishi in a steel cage, and Rikishi jumped off the middle, I think the middle of the steel cage. He jumped off it and big splashed Val Venus and basically crushed Val Venus. That was an amazing spot, and Rikishi was pretty damn insane to do that. And then Rikishi was going to climb out of the door of the cage, and then Taz shows up. He was heel at this time. He kept attacking Rikishi, and Too Cool, he kept attacking them and hitting them with a camera. Taz took the cameraman's camera, hit Rikishi in the head, so Rikishi did not escape the steel cage. So Taz screws Rikishi. That was entertaining. And then Trish is at ringside because she was managing Val Venus. And then Lita runs out to ringside. Lita comes out in a bra and looks pretty damn sexy. And then Lita rips off Trish's shirt, so then Trish is in a bra. And Trish looked damn sexy. I was really attracted to Trish more than Lita, but Lita was a great wrestler, so she has my respect. But Trish was great also. And Trish got much better at the end of 2001. But this was still the year 2000 at Fully Loaded. And then earlier, I believe it was the first match, you had the Acolytes and Lita take on, or maybe it was the Hardys, I think it was the Hardy Boys, and Lita take on Trish and Test and Albert TNA. That was a great 6-man tag intergender match. That was great and entertaining to watch. Lita did her moonsault on Trish at the end to win the match for the Hardys. So Fully Loaded 2000, my opinion, I'll grade it. It was a B+. Very good show. The card had great matches on it, and it was put together and booked very well. Now I'm going to talk about August in WCW New Blood Rising, which took place in August from Vancouver, British Columbia. What I remember, this, as I said, this show was pretty stupid. The booking was god-awful. The talent on it tried their best, but the show just was not good. You had Ernest Miller defeating the Great Muta. Why did he defeat the Great Muta? I don't have a clue. Again, bad booking. And a lot of young guys that were WCW was giving a push to, young guys like 3 Count and the Young Dragons. I had no problem with them. They were great 3-man teams. They were good talents, but they were really young guys. But at least they were getting a push and a chance in the dying days of WCW. You had Buff Bagwell defeat Chris Kanyon. Nobody gave a fuck about that, believe me. And earlier in 2000, you had, I believe, Buff Bagwell's mother, Judy Bagwell. They put her on a forklift and lifted her up during the match. And I don't know who the hell was. I think Kanyon was trying to take control of Judy Bagwell and kidnap her or some crap was the storyline. Something like that. And Kanyon diamond cutter Judy Bagwell off camera on a nitro. So then Judy Bagwell was wearing a neck brace, and then they put Judy Bagwell on a pole, on a forklift, and said Judy Bagwell is on the line. This is a Judy Bagwell on a pole match. That's what I think of that booking in that match. That was god-awful shit that WCW should have never done. A Judy Bagwell on a pole match. That was asinine stupidity, dumb fucking, whoever booked that crap should have gotten their ass beat by somebody. And then earlier, I think in 2000, you had... Oh, there's a bug on the wall over here. Anyways, not that I'm afraid of bugs, I just thought there was a bug there. Earlier in 2000, not only did you have a Judy Bagwell on a pole match, which was asinine, you had I believe, a piñata match where they hung a piñata and had guys like Juventud Guerrero and some of the luchadors try to grab the piñata. Just stupid shit and dumb gimmick matches like that were pretty damn racist, in my opinion. Having a piñata match with all Spanish wrestlers in it, that's racist. And then they put on a fucking Viagra on a pole match between between Billy Kidman, I think, and Shane Douglas. So they had a Viagra on a pole match because the storyline was Shane Douglas could not get it up with Torrie Wilson in the sack. He couldn't get it up. Please, bitch, please. Nobody that would be with Torrie Wilson would not be able to get it up unless you're gay. And if you're a gay guy and you can't get it up with Torrie Wilson nude in the bed with you, you wouldn't be in the bed with Torrie Wilson in the first place if you were a gay guy. A straight guy, any straight guy should be able to get it up if Torrie Wilson was in front of them nude. And if you couldn't, then I feel sorry for you. Then you need goddamn Viagra. So Viagra on a pole match, that was a fucking stupid ass idea that WCW did, along with Judy Bagwell on a pole. That was god awful. And it was so bad, it's not even believable how bad WCW was in 2000. And some of the gimmicks and gimmick matches they came up with, they were such bad ideas, it's not even believable that it really happened. But it did. It's in the history books. And it's pretty disgraceful and sad that it is that a Judy Bagwell on a pole match is in the wrestling history books. But it is. New Blood Rising was not a good pay-per-view. Lance Storm was on it. I believe Lance Storm was the U.S. champion and the Cruiserweight champion at the time. So Lance Storm, WCW was really pushing him hard. He started Team Canada. So WCW, only good they did in 2000 and 2001 was push Booker T and Lance Storm. That's the only good things they really did. The rest was garbage. And they did push a young tag team and give them the tag titles. They pushed guys like Sean O'Haire and Mark Jindrak and Chuck Palumbo. They pushed those young guys. I had no problem with it, but I wasn't a fan of them. I wasn't a fan of those young guys. They were good talents in the ring, but when they got to WWF, especially Sean O'Haire and Chuck Palumbo, when they came in 2001 in the Invasion, they just got their ass beat on SmackDown and put through tables by the APA, so they were buried, and WWF obviously saw no talent in Sean O'Haire or Mark Jindrak, however you say his name, because they were released. And then Sean O'Haire came back in 2003 with Roddy Piper as his manager to try to get him over. Sean O'Haire still didn't get over and was released, and sadly the guy committed suicide, I think last year or maybe in 2015. Sean O'Haire committed suicide, so that's tragic, and I wish that wouldn't happen. So what the hell was I talking about? The young guys WCW tried to push. Some of them were good workers and succeeded in the WWE, but some were gone within 3 to 4 years or 2 years. Chuck Palumbo, only success he had was when he was in a tag team with Billy Gunn, and they were Billy and Chuck. That's the only success Chuck Palumbo had. 3 count. Guys that came into WWF. Gregory Helms. He was a great talent. As a Hurricane. He was a hell of a wrestler. What's that other guy's name that was in 3 Count? The little blonde guy. They had long blonde hair. Later on, had a mohawk in the new ECW. I forget his name, but he was a pretty good talent also. But he didn't last that long in WWF. Maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. He was around. What the hell was his name? I cannot remember it for the life of me. Anyways, he was in 3 Count. He was a blonde guy in 3 Count. And he later on had a mohawk in the new ECW in 2006. But I cannot remember his name. So the only talents that really succeeded from WCW in the WWE were Booker T, was obviously the most successful. Hurricane Helms, he lasted pretty long in the WWE. That other blonde guy from 3 Count, he lasted a couple years. And Scott Steiner did not last long. He only lasted over a year, and then he was gone. Who else? Goldberg, he didn't last long. He only signed a 1-year contract, and then he was gone, and he never wanted to come back. And Goldberg still, to this day, hates WWE with a passion. I guess over how they booked him, or how he was treated backstage. I think Goldberg was pretty miserable in the WWE in his run in 2003. He was probably miserable because, I guess, how they treated him. Storyline-wise, Triple H probably trying to bury Goldberg or bury him backstage. So that probably didn't make Goldberg very happy to ever want to work for WWE again. And he did not. He left after a year and would never return. Still hasn't returned. But Goldberg, you can like him or hate him. I think Goldberg does deserve a place in the Hall of Fame, because if you're going to put Coco Beware in the Hall of Fame, then Goldberg deserves it. New Blood Rising, I would say it was a D-. It was bad. Now I'm going to talk about WWF SummerSlam 2000, which I thought was very good. You had the TLC match. First ever TLC, Dudley's versus Hardy's versus Edge and Christian. Lita got involved. Rhino wasn't there yet. But Lita got involved. And Spike Dudley wasn't there yet either until 2001. But Lita got involved. I believe she got speared by Edge on the outside. That was a great spot. You had a lot of vicious, brutal spots and bumps that guys took off the ladders. You had Matt Hardy get tipped over off a giant ladder, and he fell over the top rope through 2 tables. You had Jeff Hardy do a swanton off a giant ladder on the outside, do a swanton through 2 tables, I think through one of the Dudleys. Or maybe Edge or Christian. So TLC at SummerSlam 2000 was very good. I enjoyed it. In other matches, you had Kane versus The Undertaker. That was pretty decent and entertaining. You had some divas were involved. Terry teaming up with maybe Perry Saturn because she was managing him. Terry teaming up with the Cat. The Cat went up against Terry Reynolds. The Cat, I thought, was sexy as hell, especially with her blonde hair, and especially at SummerSlam 2000, the Cat looked damn good. And she had a damn good body also. And she was wearing a thong. Terry, I guess, was wearing a thong, and this was a stink face match between the Cat and Terry. And the Cat looked damn good in her thong. And she had a great ass. Probably still has a great ass. And Right to Censor, that, oh my god, that god-awful annoying theme music, the Right to Censor was on SummerSlam 2000. They defeated Too Cool and Rikishi. And other good things, Chris Benoit, good matches. Chris Benoit took on Chris Jericho in a best 2 out of 3 Falls match, and they tore the house down and had a hell of a match. And TLC was a hell of a match. And then you had Jerry the King Lawler defeat Taz in a strap. I believe it was a strap. I think it was a strap. I don't know if it was a strap match. I think that was at Unforgiven 2000 was the King versus Taz in a strap match. Anyways, Lawler defeats Taz. That was really dumb decision to have Jerry Lawler go over Taz, because Lawler was like probably 55 years old or 54 years old in the year 2000. I don't know why they put Jerry Lawler over Taz. It was stupid. And the main event of SummerSlam was also pretty damn good. It was a triple threat match. The Rock, the world champion, The Rock, defended against Triple H and Kurt Angle. And Kurt Angle famously in this match got knocked out and suffered a concussion. When Triple H was going to pedigree Kurt Angle through the table at ringside, probably was a Spanish announce table. Triple H was going to pedigree him through it, and the table gave away. The table gave way and broke before he even hit the pedigree. The table gives way. Kurt Angle basically lands on his head on the concrete, and Triple H and all his body weight probably landed on top of Kurt Angle. So Kurt Angle suffered a bad concussion, and he was basically knocked out and loony and probably didn't know where the hell he was, but he continued in the main event. And The Rock, as I said, retained and won. So SummerSlam 2000 TLC match. You have the Cat come out dressed in a thong. That was a plus. You have, what else? Benoit versus Jericho was great. And just a very entertaining SummerSlam. SummerSlam 2000, I would give it a grade of I would say it was an A. Very good pay-per-view. So, this, let's see if I talked about everything here that I wanted to. It looks like I talked about every single thing I wanted to. I talked about from the beginning of May and all the pay-per-views. I talked about the beginning of May to the end of March. This ends my year in wrestling, the year 2000 part 2 video. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great weekend. And if you watched this video and the entire video, thank you very much. You did not have to, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. If you watched any amount of it. If you watched 5 minutes, thank you. If you watched 45 minutes, thank you. Follow me on Twitter at TNA WWE Guy. I'm also at NXT WWE Guy. As I said, have a good weekend. If you're a fan of football, enjoy football tomorrow. Bye for now.